Hi everybody, it's Kip Carpenter. I'm an instructor with SDI, and we're here today to talk about one of the subjects that's in our course, and that's on setting up your shop. We get a lot of questions, and I get a lot of emails, and also I've done some webinars that's talked about setting up the shop, and there's a lot of confusion about do I need something big, do I need something small, what could I do, how do I do it, and basically I'm just going to go over some things real quick about setting up your shop. When you're first starting out as a basic gunsmith, you really don't need a large shop. The majority of what you're going to be doing when you're starting out is going to be a lot of repairs. And that's where I would suggest you do start out. Yes, there are some tools that you're going to need. Yes, there's some power tools you're going to need depending on some of the things you're going to do. But to just simply do basic repairs, you basically just need a bench like this, right here. A good lighting system, your basic tools, your gunsmithing tools that we go over in the course and that we also go in our videos. That's basically what you need to get going. This is actually just set up in a little corner area. It works great. In fact, I have room over here if I wanted to that I could set up another little small bench with a little drill press or even a full-size press. You just have to be kind of creative in what you're doing. You just don't want to keep yourself too cluttered and too tight. You want to be able to work. Those of you that have a garage or a shed even, that works for putting in some of your power tools, such as you might be doing for grinding butt pads and things of that nature. You can see that you really don't need a whole lot to get going. When I started out on a bench about the size of this right here. And I cannot tell you how many multiple firearms I repaired at a bench just like this here. When you're doing repairs for the public, most of that's just changing parts. So you're not going to need an elaborate shop. You're not going to need a $30,000 lathe or CNC machine or any of those kind of things to get going with that. That's the kind of things you're going to do down the road when you become an advanced gunsmith and you would want to take machine shop courses and things of that nature to even get to that level. But to do just simply getting out and graduating this program, this is all you need. And remember this, when you are starting out, even if something as small as this, plan ahead and plan it out. You need to know what you have in your idea of what you're going to do. So take a piece of paper and draw it out and draw out your basic layout of how you want to work your shop and what you want to have in your shop to your immediate access. This will save you hours and hours of headaches and give you a really good idea of how much space you really have to utilize. If you're going to have a bigger shop, there are a few things that you may want to have, such as a bluing room. For example, you would want a separate area in your shop that's well ventilated and away from all your other tools, because salts are very corrosive and they give off the steam and they get in the air and they will tear up your equipment. So also you need to remember though about ventilation. Ventilation is a very important thing when it comes to a bluing room. So you always want to put safety first. Another specific area is somewhere that you can have basically like a little office set up for your business records. You're going to need to keep your records. You're going to have your FFL, you're going to have records, you're going to have your books. You need somewhere where that's safe, secure, and is in an area where it's not going to be contaminated. With the same safety concerns that you would have with your bluing room, you would want to have in an area where you might be doing some welding, some torching, anything like that, that you're going to have heat, fire. You want to make sure it's in a safe, secured area, and have your plan ahead for dealing with things that could catch fire. You don't want anything catching fire, and you don't want to expose yourself to a lot of vapors as well. So safety is a concern there. If you're going to reload, make sure you have a reloading area that's separate from everything else in your shop. Are you kind of getting the general theme here? At SDI, we're big on safety. Also, you want a general assembly area. You want somewhere where you can work on your bigger benches free to lay out. You may be building an AR-15 or some other, have a shotgun torn down, something like that. You want somewhere else where you can lay that out and have a good work area next to your bench. Now, for those of you who do want to have a machining area, you want it separated, and even in a spare room if you have it. If not, you want it separated and segregated from everything else you're going to be doing in your shop for safety reasons. Another thing too, if you're going to be doing polishing and refinishing, which if you're bluing you will be, you want to have it in a separate contained room that has well ventilation, because it's going to be producing dust and particles that not only is not good for you to get into your lungs, but you just don't want it contaminating the rest of your shop, getting on your other equipment as well. It needs to be confined to itself. If you don't have a separate room for this, you can always use a vac vent system to where it immediately as you're polishing where it sucks all the dust and debris out and you're not breathing that in. That's also acceptable, and you would definitely want to have that when you're doing this kind of thing. The next thing too is also obviously a repair station, much like the one I'm standing next to. You want it to where this is where you're going to do the majority of your work. So you want it to where you're going to be able to have access to it, because your work area and your bench are going to be your two most important areas, and you're going to be there more than you're going to be anywhere else. The next area you would want to have is your repair holding area. This is where you would have your bins set up for your guns that you're working on, as well as the guns that are finished, i.e. a big safe is great for this. And also in that same area is where I like to kind of keep a lot of my parts bins as well. If you have a separate location, you also can be a retail area. Your FFL will allow you to also sell guns and buy and trade. So you might want to consider that as well as extra income. So that's pretty much basically what you need for your basic shop. We could go into a lot more detail, and the webinars that SDI has covered, as you know, if you heard with mine and with other instructors, it can go into several hours of detail. So this will give you the basics to at least get started. So until next time, this is Kip from SDI wishing you successful gunsmithing.